Listen up, Agent. The following briefing is brought to you by From the Helicarrier, your #1 news source for Marvel's Avengers Alliance, and the Marvel Avengers Alliance Wikipedia. Welcome back, Agent. Today's subject of discussion during this briefing will be an odd one. A lot of what we know about the phasing effect has changed, and it's hard at times to tell the differences between them. There are 4 different kinds of phasing that we'll be going over, and while each one of them does similar effects, it's important to know the differences between them so you can be prepared. Going with the original and most common effect, phase shows how even a different version of this power can be extremely useful in combat. Allowing the user to avoid and ignore most any attack, only psychic attacks are guaranteed to actually affect a phased fighter. Magic attacks can hit them as well, but its effectiveness is questionable considering the lower damage done and the chance for the enemy to avoid it altogether. Phasing also powers up the next attack by the user by about 50%. After this next attack though, the buff is removed and a debuff that prevents phasing from happening again for a round takes its place. Thankfully though, a phased hero cannot protect others from attacks. Intangible is very similar to phase in just about all respects, being immune to most attacks, increasing the damage on your next attack, and being unable to return to this state for a round or two afterwards. What makes it different is the fact that magic attacks are fully capable of hitting an intangible target. In many ways, this effect is considered to be an inferior attempt to attain phasing, as it's only ever been seen on weapons recovered from a Spec Ops. Ethereal is likewise limited, as it doesn't give the phasing effect guaranteed to the user. When Ethereal is in place, the user has a chance to become completely incorporeal, which in all respects is the same as Intangible. The main difference here is that the fact that you're going to be healed for 20% of your maximum health when this happens, making it useful occasionally. As it stands though, the weapon we went over in our last briefing and a consumable item are the only ways to currently obtain this effect. Astral Form, the final version of phasing that we're aware of, is for all intents and purposes the same as Intangible. The reason we believe it's even considered to be a different effect is its use. As you may have noticed, I'm actually telling you where a lot of these effects are coming from in this briefing, something I usually avoid to prevent overwhelming you with information, Agent. I think it might be important to know here though, just in case the differences in where these phased effects come from might be taken into account. As it stands, only 2 sorcerers have ever used Astral Form effect in battle. There are 2 particular effects left to go over that have special interactions with phasing, as these effects allow phased fighters to gain an advantage and must be made note of. The first, Phase Disruption, allows the user to attack enemies without breaking their phase state. This means they'll continue to be immune to most attacks for another round. They don't get the benefits from the phase status though, so their damage won't increase. Phased Advantage, on the other hand, not only gives the fighter the bonus for being phased, but gives them an additional 50% power boost along with it. What's more, they also ignore the enemy's defense stat and ignore any shields they might have. This means an attack with this effect on a phased fighter can hit very, very, very hard. Be extremely careful should you find yourself fighting someone who with this 1-2 punch. With that, we'll be going over something a little bit more interesting next time, Agent, something that doesn't have us focusing on so many little details. In fact, I've decided that it's time for you to get into the meat of the Alliance, as we'll be going over one of the heroes that every agent should think about recruiting to the Alliance as one of their first. He's one of the 2 sorcerers we talked about earlier, and he'll always be a boon to you in battle.